So I am just finishing up an extremely busy couple of weeks that started with a 10-day tour with two of my favorite stand-up comedians, Brett Truck and Steve Hofstetter, and that ended with the premiere of my new charity comedy show, Stand Up 2020. The tour was super fun, as per usual, got a bunch of good stand-up clips out of it, and I got to record an episode of my radio show, Famous Dead People, with Steve and Brett. Those guys are mainly stand-ups, so I wasn't sure how they were going to handle doing an hour of improvised comedy, but it ended up being super fun. They were hilarious. That episode's going to be dropping soon, so check the description for links to that. But Stand Up 2020 was premiering like right when I got back from tour, so there were all these things that I had to do for the show while I was traveling. There were a lot of phone calls and emails that happened while I was en route from like Nashville, Tennessee to Savannah, Georgia. And when I finally did get back, I had 3 days to finish everything that needed to get done for Stand Up 2020 and record 2 more episodes of Famous Dead People. So it was hectic. Me and the other co-producers were extremely nervous about our first show. We had managed to book David Cross for the premiere. We were shitting bricks that there wouldn't be a big enough audience for him. I actually had a stress dream about it while I was on the road, where the show started full, but then everybody left after the first act, and I was like, David Cross is going on in 2 minutes. I need to find an audience for David Cross. So we get to the theater on the day of the show, and we had a bunch of volunteers from Swing Left there to register voters, and they were awesome. But the 4 of us are still sweating bullets about how many people are going to be at the show. It is a small venue. It only seats about 60 people, but we didn't get a lot of press for the show, and we needed to have a good audience for David Cross. So about an hour before the show starts, I walk up to the ticket booth, and I ask the lady there if she can tell me how many tickets we've sold. And she looks at her computer, and she goes, 50. A wave of relief just smacks me in the face. And I start running around to the other producers like a kid on Christmas. We've got 50 people. We have a show. We're not going to be embarrassed in front of David Cross. And I get to see the same look of relief smash everybody else in the face. The show went better than I could have possibly hoped. All 5 comics were hilarious. David Cross showed up about halfway through the show, and he's the kind of celebrity that I get really nervous around because I want him to think that I'm cool. And it's my job to introduce him. And before you introduce a comic, it's sort of polite to ask them what they want said about them. Do you want me to use these credits? Do you want me to just say, ladies and gentlemen, your next act? Do you want me to make a big fanfare out of it? But I was so terrified that he wasn't going to think I was cool that I just asked the other producers, like, how do you think I should bring up David Cross? And they were like, you should ask him. So about 2 minutes before he's supposed to go on stage, I finally summon up the courage. I walk up to him as professionally as I can, and I say, hey, is there anything you want me to say about you when I bring you on stage? And then he says, Alphonse from This Is Us. And I walk away, because I'm like 80% sure that this is a bit, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, he could be on This Is Us. He's an actor. He could be on This Is Us. And if he is on This Is Us, like, that's the bit. That he's done all this other incredible comedy stuff, but that's the thing he wants me to say about him. But is this a bit for, like, the audience, or is it, like, a bit against me? Like, is he seeing if I know who he is? Is the bit that I'm gonna bring him up as Alphonse from This Is Us, and he's gonna think that I don't know that he's comedian David Cross? And I've only got about 90 seconds to figure this out. So I freak out a little bit, I go on IMDb, and I finally decide on hedging my bets. I'm gonna say 2 big actual credits, and then I'm gonna say Alphonse from This Is Us. So I go on stage and I say, ladies and gentlemen, this next guy's a legend. He's one of my favorite comedians of all time. You know him from Mr. Show, from Arrested Development, and of course, Alphonse from This Is Us. And I think that was the right move. Like, David Cross didn't become my best friend or anything, but he also didn't tell me to fuck off, so I'm counting that as a win. And it turns out that I wasn't the only producer that was a little intimidated by him. One of the ways that you communicate to a comic on stage that their time is almost up is called lighting them. It's where you just shine the light at them from the audience to let them know that they should wrap it up. And it was Selena Kopic's job to light David Cross, which she did, and then apologized for. And it wasn't like an apology that was like just for us or that was trying to be funny. It was a very sincere and adorable apology that landed right in a moment of silence so everybody heard it. It was like this. And that actually made me feel better that I wasn't the only person that was terrified. So the show was a hit. We've got 4 more dates from the venue, which I'll post about in the description. The volunteers that we had from Swing Left registered a couple of voters, and we managed to raise a little money from ticket sales to go to Spread the Vote and Project ID. So if you were at one of the shows I did on the road or at Stand Up 2020, thank you so much for coming. And tell your friends about the show. We've got one every month leading up to the 2020 election, first Friday of the month. The next one is December 6th. Details in the description. description. It's going to be a lot of things in the description. And now I'm going to take a very well-deserved nap, unless my new best friend, David Cross, wants to do something.